Select Board meeting for the town of Ashland, as with has been going on. We are still all via Zoom per the governor's orders and the ability to do it remotely. We haven't done this for a while, but I think it might be good. Steve, would you read the updated vision statement, please?
Sure, thank you. The town of Ashland will be a prosperous and fiscally sound community with a full range of housing, business, cultural, educational, and recreational opportunities in a safe, inclusive, and attractive environment for residents and visitors. We will embrace all differences and ensure that all persons have the opportunity to enjoy, contribute, and be part of the Ashland community.
Thank you. Brandy, would you read the updated mission statement, please?
Sure. The Ashland Select Board is dedicated to promoting responsible fiscal management, advocating for sustainable development and growth, and providing excellent municipal services which will enhance the quality of life in our diverse community. The Ashland Select Board is committed to providing clear goals and objectives for town management and creating effective engagement and public participation with residents, state legislators, and other elected officials in order to achieve our mission.
Great. I did not do a roll call vote, but there's Rob now on screen.
Hello.
Hey,
Can
Rob.
everybody hear me?
Hey, how are you?
I think we're gonna jump right into citizens participation. So please raise your hand or wave or something if you'd like to participate. Mark, we're gonna let you go first. So unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hey, thank you, and good evening. Good evening, Rob. Welcome to the group. After the trees came down a little bit, it was snowed.
Yeah, windy here.
I like to say thank you. One of the agenda items is micro enterprise, and I'd like to thank Michael and Beth for letting me barge into the party. One good question I talked to who was there. They said I had a good question. I want to thank Michael and Beth for letting me to come on. And the other thing is to Mr. Joe. Just because you had a procedure doesn't mean I can give you up to the stomach all the time.
Go right ahead, Mark.
You Italian styling, you kind of got gilded a little bit, huh?
Lord help me.
I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mark. Seeing, I don't know if Greg is on. Did you want to participate, Greg, in citizens participation? If you don't unmute, I'll say take that as a no. Okay. We're going to jump right into old and new business. The first item on our agenda is EA Fish, Robert Hill Way. Request to work on Saturday, October 10th, and Columbus Day, Monday, October 12th. Michael, if you want to present this, please. It's pretty straightforward, but.
Yeah, as you said, it is very straightforward. So Delbrook, which is the contractor on the Robert Hill Way project, they have requested permission to work on Columbus Day, which is Monday the 12th. And they're not sure if the Saturday falls under a holiday weekend. So they would like to work Saturday the 10th and Monday the 12th. I'm pretty supportive of all of these things. Just a couple of things for the board to consider. That neighborhood has had to endure construction at a time when everybody has been home and trying to work. So that is one thing I think the board could consider in terms of whether to grant this. On the other hand, the more work they can get done, the quicker they can get out. So I have not received any word here or for or against this from any of the neighborhoods. Susan, have you heard anything? Okay.
And did the information, hold on, Steve, I'll go to questions in a second. I have two questions. Have they been working on Saturdays typically? And do we know if anything went out to the neighborhood about the fact that they're looking to work on Monday?
I do not think so on the first one.
Okay.
The second one, I do not know, but considering we really received this recently,
right.
I do not think so. I actually had a meeting with the Independence Lane neighborhood today about something unrelated. Should have asked them about this at that time, but
Yeah.
but they didn't mention anything either of.
Okay. Steve, you had a question or a
Yeah,
comment?
so just a couple things. Number one, I don't believe we're Saturdays are a question here. It's, you look at our noise bylaw and it talks about construction activities on Sunday and federal holidays. Doesn't speak about weekends. Saturday is a construction day. It always has been. So we're really, I think, tasked with making a determination for Monday only. Now, my question, and Michael, you may or may not know this. Why do they need to work on Monday? We have in the past, the times that we've waived this, it's always been for pretty special reason, like roof activities. So I know one of the few times we've done it was at the Warren School, and they were in the middle of a roof repair, and we granted them permission prior to the opening of school. So, is there a specific reason why they're looking to do this work on Monday, or is it just general construction work?
General construction work.
I mean, in all honesty, for a lot of businesses, Monday is not a holiday. Even though it's a federal holiday, there's no banks, there's no post offices. A lot of businesses are open on Monday. So I'm sure it's just, they're like, to them, it's a work day. And because it's a holiday, they have to get permission. So
I think the only thing we should consider then are the hours of operation.
right.
Can I say something?
Yep. Go ahead, Rob.
I mean, they haven't cited any unusual circumstances. It is a regular holiday, as I think Michael was talking about. People are home, and they've been going through a lot of construction, I presume, and more in the future. I would think they should get the holiday off. I mean, I'm not sure what the special reasoning is behind this, and I don't see any reason to actually approve this request. The holidays are supposed to be holidays. So, and presumably they had that in mind when they scheduled this project, I hope.
Joe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to agree with Rob. If we're looking at the hours of operation, and that's going to limit the amount of hours they're going to be able to work, I don't think they'll be able to get a lot of work completed to advance their timetable in any way. And I don't think one day is going to be that much of a deal. And I have to agree. I think that a lot of the residents up there have had to endure, some of the hardships of having that construction process, that project being built. And I think one day really isn't going to screw up their timetable in any way. So I'd have to agree with Rob. I think not going forward with that would be my idea, my suggestion.
Brandy?
My question is, I assume it would be regular construction hours, right? Which would be, what is that,
7.
Michael? Is that like 7 to 4?
7 to, I
Could
believe
be
it's
7 to 5.
7 to 5 or 7 to 6. Hold on. Yep.
Okay. I have reservations about approving it too. If it was something that, I think that if the board doesn't typically see these types of requests for general construction and it's a holiday, I believe we should I don't feel strongly that we should approve it for Monday. Because 7 a.m. on Monday, I don't think that it's appropriate.
We can condition the hours if we were so inclined. It's the hours are between 7 and 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Literally is the way the bylaw or the noise regulation reads. So, as we've done in the past, I think we started the roof at 9 o'clock in the morning and had them go till 3. So that's an option as well. If we were inclined to be approving of this.
I'd be more willing to do that. If we were going to approve it, I would be more willing to do that.
My feeling is, as I said, for many businesses, it's not a holiday. So, Rob, to your point where they should have looked at that when they were doing their schedule, they probably didn't even have it on their calendar as a holiday. Because just because it's a federal recognized holiday, schools, banks, stuff like that, as I said, I mean, retail is open and many just general businesses. I mean, I'm sure you're a bit, I mean, maybe not, Rob, I'm not sure, but
No, it's
Brandy,
not.
I'm sure your company's open on Monday. I know ours is and all of our companies that we work with are going to be open on Monday.
Thing to
So-
consider, Yolanda, is that, given the pandemic, a lot of these folks may be working, but they are going to be working from home. And I would think a good percentage of the people on independence are probably remote working at this point in time.
That is correct.
So this Monday versus this past Monday when they were doing the same thing,
Yeah,
from a perspective of noise or impact,
it's no different. You're right.
that's no difference. So, I mean, I hear what we're saying, the impact on the construction for that neighborhood, but this past Monday, if they were working from home, they were working from home and the construction was happening. So,
True.
I mean,
If
I'm
I could
willing to go with, however you guys decide to go, but understand that, for the company, the longer they have to be there and possibly missing a day could throw off their schedule. And I would think we'd want them out of there as soon as possible in regards to a construction perspective.
Yeah.
Joe,
can I
you're
just-
muted. Yep, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we haven't had time to like survey the neighborhood. We're just getting this last minute. I still think this is primarily a residential community, and quality of residential life, I think, is important. And, holidays, by the way, we're calling it Indigenous Peoples Day now, but, holidays are still important and should be observed unless there's some important reason not to. And, I just think people deserve a holiday, to have quiet enjoyment of their home on the holiday. I haven't heard anything extraordinary, so I wouldn't support having them work at all. So as per our bylaw.
Michael, you wanted to add something, and then Joe?
One thing I wanted to add a couple of things. So if you were to go down the road of looking at limiting hours, they do have their equipment on site. So it's not like they have to spend time mobilizing and everything to get equipment on site. Second, and I believe you saw my email last night, or I hope you had a chance to look at it. There is, I think, some disagreement in terms of what their opening schedule is going to be. Right now, they are planning on, and they're working towards opening and having occupancy in mid-November. As I indicated in my email to the board, I have reservations about that given the situation with the water. So, I don't know if a day is really going to hurt them in terms of a schedule, given kind of the bigger picture and where things are.
Joe? You're muted. You're still muted, Joe. Here, oh, nope.
Muted yourself
You're
again.
muted again, Joe. Click it once. There
Maybe
you
they
go.
don't want me to talk.
No.
It's a little different. There's no school this Monday. So the kids will be home. So if they start work at 7 o'clock, the kids are going to be up at 7 o'clock because they'll be wakened by, the construction crews. The other thing is if they are working on Saturdays, that's another day that the kids, sleep hours or whatever have been disturbed. So to me, one day is not that much of a big deal, to be very honest with you. And I understand that they may have a construction schedule and things of that nature, but their inability to plan ahead doesn't make us have to preclude any severe drastic measures that we have to take for their behalf. They should have thought this out beforehand. And like we said, we just got this not too long ago, a couple of days ago. To me, that's poor management planning as far as I'm concerned. And let the residents have a day off from all the noise up there. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Do I hear a motion in some way or another? One way?
I'll make a motion to deny the request for Columbus Day work.
I'll second that.
Okay. We'll take a roll call vote. All those in favor of denying this request? Mitchell, all those in favor, let's see. I'm not quite sure how this, so we'll do a roll call vote. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Kinsman,
Aye.
Scheer,
Aye.
Greaves, no. You know, we'll deny it, but I don't think it's appropriate, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the construction going on in back of me on Monday.
Okay.
Deny them.
All right.
Anyway, next item on our agenda is discuss returning to in-person meetings and remote participation.
Want me to?
Michael, why don't you kick us off for this?
Sure. So this has been brought up, I think, by several board members just in conversations. And I've probably brought it up as well. As we went into the COVID pandemic, the governor relaxed open meeting law regulations so boards could meet remotely so they could continue their business while also meeting some of the social distancing requirements. As we start coming out of that, and it's speculative whether we're actually coming out of that or not, board has brought up the idea of possibly returning to in-person meetings and then simultaneously looking at adopting the ability to participate remotely in general, not just related to the pandemic. And so the regulations establishing remote participation are actually in the Attorney General's regulations. It's 940 Mass Red 29.10. And as it applies to us, the only body that can decide for remote participation in a town is the Select Board. The Select Board could adopt this regulation, and it would then apply to all the boards and committees in town. Similarly, if the board decided to revoke those regulations, the board would take a vote to do that, and then that would apply to all of the boards and commissions.
Right.
Just a couple of notes. There's a lot of minutia that we could get into in terms of the details and everything, but a couple really good and important points here. Is first of all, to establish a quorum, you cannot utilize the person or persons who are
Remote.
participating remotely. You still have to have a physical quorum present. And also, if you are participating remotely, you can vote, and you are not going to be deemed absent for those purposes.
A question, Michael. So at this point in time, adopting this is really a future event, because right now we have the ability to meet in person if we wanted to, or to meet remotely anyway, by virtue of the governor's orders. So this is something that we would be reflecting on for the future. Actually, almost sounds like a post-pandemic type of world in a sense.
Yes.
I would think so. I mean, and I think the other thing in regards to the discussion to go back to meeting in person, but also in regards to remote participation, I don't know that the bylaw or the laws on the books for the state that we would have to adopt addresses remote participation by audience and non-board members, which I think is something that we're going to want to think about for our future, right? Because, we find not all the, obviously not this meeting, because there's not that much that I guess is interesting on our agenda. We don't have too many people participating remotely, or maybe they'll jump on later. But I think other meetings that have happened, we've had larger participation because people can do it remotely and they can sit at home and still participate, which I think is a good thing. So it's almost a two-part discussion in my mind.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
agree, Yolanda. I think it's, we really don't know what the future is going to be in terms of the way the state or the attorney general modifies regulations based on what
Right.
we're experiencing now. So,
Right.
I have kind of mixed feelings about about both of these components, but I'll defer to you're opening it up to questions.
Yeah, I would say, what do people think? I mean, I don't know that we are ready to come back. First of all, I don't think we can safely go back to town hall yet as a board. We'd have to put up petitions at the table. We'd have to figure out if some people aren't comfortable, how would we do that with technology? So there's a lot to think about from that perspective. So I don't think we're ready to go back to an in-person select board meeting.
Yeah.
But thoughts and feelings from other people would be good.
I would agree, Yolanda. I mean, I'm probably one of the ones, certainly I know I'm one of the ones that have been advocating for at least discussing going back to live meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And really it's a reaction to the fact that we're all getting sick of Zoom meetings. And, I think it's wearing on all of us. But at the same time, given what we're seeing all over the country now, what we're seeing, the last several days in the White House, what's going on. I mean, it's just, we're not anywhere near the point of being able to, I think, be comfortable in a live environment. At least that's my conclusion at this point.
And do it safely. Rob, go ahead.
I'll come back if I can have a plexiglass shield between me and Steve. Would that work?
That's what I'm saying, is that for us to be able to sit at the table, there have to be petitions between us.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not something I think we should be doing.
Rob will need to wear full PPE.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
We're gonna put 'em
Well,
in a
seriously, I think it's I think it's a little early yet. I think, of course, we do have technical issues with Zoom, but I think generally it's working pretty well. And so, and I think we are going to have to see what happens this winter. Things could well not improve, I guess I'll say. And I am curious, I think you guys had a public safety committee meeting in person today, is that right? I'd
We
be
did.
curious as to how that worked, if there's a venues that we can use.
It was outdoors, Rob, so it was a totally different environment. We were outdoors. We were, for the most part, separated. Would you agree, Joe? We were looking at samples, and then we had to do it outdoors in order to view the samples in the way they would look outdoors.
The natural environment. Yep.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's an option like that when we can use it. That would have to be, I suppose, a Saturday morning in pretty good weather, I suppose.
You can always use the pavilion at Stone Park,
Yeah,
and it's
so-
covered, so you're sitting underneath there. You have
so-
electricity.
yeah.
Of course,
No,
we'd have issues with, I think to go to Yolanda's point, this really is convenient for people to watch us too.
Right.
There's a whole new aspect where people can just come and observe remotely and participate.
Mhm.
In some ways, it's really a whole new dimension.
And I think virtual is still the way people are going even into next year.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a lot of organizations that, as they're planning bigger groups and bigger meetings, it's virtual.
I totally miss not being with you folks in person, but if it's to keep everybody safe, I mean, that's the bottom line. And, if we have to forego talking to everybody in person just to keep ourselves healthy and safe and our families safe as well, then we should continue doing the Zoom meetings until we feel, until someone else tells us that we're on the downside of this pandemic. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen for quite some time, which is unfortunate. I know that Beth has been, preparing and doing things, for activities in town with strict cautions and guidelines that need to be followed, because we don't want anybody, to get ill or to find themselves, as part of this pandemic statistic. So, everything's being done to do that. That's why we've canceled all our events. And hopefully we can replace those events with what Beth is doing right now to keep everybody in some sort of normal pattern. And it's not fun. It's not easy. And, we're social animals. We need to be with people.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that we can't at this point.
Yeah.
Yep. Brandy, thoughts?
So I agree. I'm not personally ready for all of us to be sitting at that table, super close and feel like the public, is putting themselves at risk by being there as well. So, as much as I miss you guys, I'm not ready to go back either. I think that we're fortunate that we do have the platform of Zoom and that we're able to still meet, even, though it's definitely not the same, but it's definitely a good platform for it. And I think remote participation should be something that we do look at, because I think if we give ourselves and also the public a way to participate remotely, I think that's the next step. That's what we should do. But I agree with Steve. I think that there's probably going to be an evolution in what the Attorney General says and how we can approach this. And, because I do think we should be able to have remote participation where, if one or two of us felt like we didn't feel safe coming in, that we could make quorum by being remote. And to not be able to do that, I think is a huge, that's a disservice to the board. I think I'd rather keep the Zoom meetings as we're doing.
And the thing to remember is you have to have quorum. If you go back to public and you allow remote participation, you have to have quorum in the room.
Right.
And then someone else can participate. But I do think that, we should at some point look at allowing remote participation for our committees and for ourselves. Just, I don't know that it's something we have to be concerned about right now. I think come January, February, as we start looking at going back, because I don't see us going back into town hall for all of us sitting at the table until at least January or February. And even then it might be with masks and things. So.
Could be even longer, Yolanda. I know
possibly
businesses. I know, Brandy, I don't know if you're going back into your office at all currently. I know, with my son's case, they don't anticipate going back into their offices until June or July.
Yeah.
I went back actually for the first time yesterday. I hadn't been back since March, and literally just went to go pick up some stuff that has, that I figured I would have access to long before now, but drove in and the city's it's, from what I've heard, the activity's picked up, but it's still a ghost town. And I didn't really want to be in my building at all, to be honest. So.
Yep. Okay. So I think we keep doing it the way we're doing right now. And then, as we start looking at going back, we look at adopting the remote participation that is there from the Attorney General. But also I think we need to look at technically how we can allow our residents to participate remotely as well.
Yeah.
So.
Good discussion.
Okay. Great, thank you. Next item on our agenda is extend outside dining. And I think that's probably why Beth is with us.
Yeah, I'd asked Beth to come and present this. It's nothing major, but she can answer questions if the board had any. So Beth.
Sure, thanks. So with the governor's executive order to extend outdoor dining through the end of the year, there's been a few restaurants that have reached out to me asking if we could do the same and just follow the same guidelines. I thought it would just be, it's up to you to see if this is okay to just actually do like a blanket approval to just extend them to meet the governor's executive orders. Outdoor dining has gone very well, has been very successful. There have not been any issues that I know of. And it's really helped these restaurants survive through this terrible time. So as long as the weather holds up, they'd like to continue to do this. If you're okay with that, and we can just do an overall blanket approval for all of them.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to do this. When I saw that, because we had originally said the end of October, November 2nd. And once I saw that the governor was allowing this to extend, I'm like, we got to do this. And then I also think that we need to look at doing it even beyond the end of the year.
I agree, Yolanda. I would ask Beth to maybe do some prep work for us in terms of how we can, continue to do this next year. I think our restaurants are going to be challenged for quite some time, and I think
Yep.
anything we can do to assist, we should do. And
Yep.
this is kind of one of the easy things.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a positive where we can help the businesses in some way. So,
Yeah, I agree.
I
yeah.
don't disagree at all.
as well.
Should we extend it even beyond the end of the year, maybe till March?
I don't,
And
can
let
we,
the-
I
Yes.
don't know that we can extend past
Oh,
the end
okay.
of the year as of right now.
Okay,
We have to go with the governor's orders.
okay.
But I would like, to Steve's point, to see what we can do to research to say, can we as a community increase the outdoor dining options for our restaurants above and beyond? Or, once this order ends, what can we do to allow them to continue having an extended outdoor seating area?
My,
That
my
would be,
gut sense is that we can, as the local licensing authority, we can expand the footprint
Right.
of their space. So use TJ's as an example. If TJ's comes to us next year and says, I have a new footprint I want you to approve,
right.
I think that would probably be the mechanism that we would use. I
Yeah.
think we have a lot of power as the local licensing authority.
So it does depend on the ABCC though. So we do have to take into account the rules and regs that they place on this as well. So the
Right.
reason this was so easy and so quick was because the ABCC worked with the state to do this, to then put it on a local level. So it was quick and easy. So that would kind of play into that past December 31st. So we'd have to look at that. I know a lot of other economic development directors in other towns, we do talk once a month. They are advocating for the ABCC to work with the state come the spring because we do factor in that this will probably still be around. So it may come back to your plate, but really we have to kind of go with the ABCC guidelines as well. And if they want to make it a permanent patio outside, then restaurants can certainly go through the zoning process.
I was going to ask that, like, so if restaurants are changing their, if they've gone from like picnic tables and they want to change their sort of how they're structuring this, whether it's heaters or tents or more permanent things, I assume that then goes through your committee, Beth, for approval, any changes that, to that approved layout.
For the outdoor dining currently,
Yep.
it really would go to like fire for any like heaters and tents. That's really just building and fire. So that and they've been doing that.
Okay. Because I figured as the weather gets colder, for outdoor dining to really be successful, they'll need those heaters to keep people coming.
Which are impossible to find. They're
Yeah,
just
they're in back order for sure.
not available.
But I know like Oregon Club has some heaters and Mozzie has changed from their original tent to a much more structured tent, and it has sides now, and it's a much better situation there.
Yeah, they've really adapted. I have to
Yeah.
say, they've been pretty creative. So
Okay.
that's-
Okay, so if there's no other discussion, if I can get a motion to extend our outdoor dining for all restaurants that have applied for extended outdoor dining through the end of the year.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote, Mitchell,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Kinsman,
Aye.
Shear,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. So Beth, you can let our restaurants know that they're all good through the end of the year, and we will continue monitoring this and working with them as best we can to help support them, because I think that's important.
Mhm.
Great, I appreciate that. Let's hope
Right.
for a mild November.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Beth.
Beth.
Thanks, Beth.
Great. Moving on, discuss terms for appointed boards and committees. Susan was very nice to submit into our package a list of all the committees we have, or at least most of them that are active. Looking at the ones that we appoint as well as some of the other ones. And I think this discussion was brought about as we were looking at the reappointment of some people and some of our committees that it might be good to get some new blood on. So the discussion was, do we implement term limits for any of our boards and committees? And I think it would be something then to think about, would that apply to just the ones that we appoint or all of them in town? Who would like to go first? Michael?
Yeah, I just want to add, I think you're talking about term limits, but then I think you're also talking about implementing terms on some committees that have open
Right.
items.
Right. Combination of both. Who would like to go first?
Yolanda, can you share that list?
Sure, I can share that document.
Thanks.
Share my screen. I'm going to share screen too. And share. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is our list. And as you said, Michael, it's not only term limits, but actual terms, because we have a few, I don't know that we have that many that are, until completion or something like that.
You don't, that's correct.
Okay. So which ones, is it just Upper Charles Trail, Valentine? Okay, the ones that say completion. Oh, Pond Street Working Group.
There's 5.
Publix. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, okay, well, you guys jump in because I know what I think. So I think it's good for everyone to hear what you guys are thinking as well.
Well, I'll just jump in first here.
Go ahead, Steve.
I think in terms of terms of existing committees, I think my feeling is that everybody should have a term of office, not until completion. So I think that's probably the first thing that we can kind of clean up. There's 5 committees. I mean, the standard is 3-year terms. We could, how we determine who's the sequence of the terms, that can be easily done either through one of their meetings, or we can just do a random selection and move that forward. And I think we all, regardless of the committee, Joe and I serve on the Public Safety Building Committee, we should have a term.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. When I'm on the Upper Charles Committee, as I've said before, when I saw that until completion, I was like, uh-oh.
As I've mentioned in the past, it's like a death sentence.
Yeah. But I did have a question. So say we changed to say 3 years, are people talking about, when you say term limits, does that mean people can't renew, or is there a limitation on renewal of terms that you're thinking about, or is it
Well,
just?
I think that's part of the discussion, right? Does
Okay.
it make sense to have someone sit on the same committee for, 20 years without, or would it be good to say, thank you for your work after 3 terms, maybe 9 years, or 4 terms after 12 years, and allow new blood? So it's 2 different discussions, right? So the first, I think, let's start first with putting terms on some of these that are to completion. Now, I would say for some of these, if you put term limits on, you're then having to either reappoint those people, or, see if, I think that's extra work. But again, I'm open. I mean, because I think about other school building projects and then this school building project, we have a good group of people. If we had put a term limit of 3 years, we would have had to be reappointing that whole group already.
So Yolanda, question on that. So this Minda School Building Committee, how much longer is it anticipated to be working as a committee and making decisions?
I think the idea is right now we're the feasibility committee, and that should the project get approved, the idea is that group would then get turned into the building committee to actually monitor the construction until completion of the project.
So what's that, another 3 years, 4 years?
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest, Yolanda, probably, if everything goes well, throughout the year 2024, just because after the building is completed,
right,
you have commissioning and all that good kind of stuff.
Right. So And I would almost think that with the public safety building as well, right? You have a group of people that are working on what you're doing now. That's a good, I would think that you'd want to
That's a
work
good
until completion, until the project is done.
Well, our timeline is somewhat shorter than the schools, obviously.
Right,
And,
right.
So if we were to have, let's assume everything works out in terms of the funding and all of the processes, that we would literally, if we were to appoint everybody today to a 3-year term, we'd probably see it to completion.
Right. Right. And then the other committee that we have listed here, the Pond Street Project Working Group, I think those are, I don't know that anyone was actually ever appointed to that. I think it's a group of people that got together. So I would almost take that off of this list
Okay.
in regards to appointments or terms or anything like that, because that's been a somewhat fluid group based on what positions people are in and things like that.
You're right, Yolanda. Susan and I were actually kind of having that same discussion when we were putting this together. So we put it on just, to give it some visibility.
Yep.
And
I mean, I think it's important for people to know that that group is out there working, but I would take it off in regards to whether or not we need to give them an actual term for their posting for that.
the good news is completion for that project is,
It's coming around. It's 2 more years, I think, right? 2022 should be fall of 2022. That'll be nice. Okay. Other thoughts? I think
I guess my thought was,
go ahead, Brandy.
oh, I was just going to say, it struck me as thank you for putting this together, Susan, but looking at like the number, I mean, it's not a huge number of committees that have, the term is to completion, but the fact that we do have them, I think we really need some terms on these. So that's my, I don't know if we want to make a blanket statement that, they should all be 3 years, or, so that was going to be my question is, how do we decide at this point if all of them are I don't want to say worthy of 3 years, but I'm looking at some of these, like the Valentine Property Committee. Do we want to have all of those members have a 3-year term, or do we want to look at that as sort of a 1-year term? I know it's more work to reappoint, but I'm just wondering if we do the same across the board, or if we're going to look at these one by one to see if certain committees make more sense to do shorter terms.
Yep. Could I make a suggestion related to that?
Yep. Go ahead, Michael.
So I think there's some of these projects that clearly have an end date in sight. One being the public safety building, the Mendez School Building Committee, the Valentine property. I'm afraid if it goes beyond a year, there's not going to be a Valentine property to restore. So it's almost like you've got an artificial term limit there. But something that is the Upper Charles Trail Committee, which has multiple stages and multiple phases, that's going to extend many, many years. And I think even in the best case scenario, Rob, that would be the case if we had like all the money in the world and everything and we were ready to go.
Oh, yeah. I'd view it as an ongoing committee, actually, I would think.
Well, I would think that, at some point, yes, we might have a completed trail, but I expect that to be 10, 15 years down the road for it to be completely done. And then there's always things that might want to be improved or changed or updated so I think the Upper Charles Trail would be a good one to put to 3 years, and then, go to a meeting and talk to them and say, okay, have people expire so that they're not all expiring at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask about the mechanics of that. When you've got people who've been appointed for perpetual terms over a term of, how, has it been 6 years now? At least, I think. So you'll have people you'll have some new people, but a lot of people that have been there for a while. So how do we kind of approach who gets what terms and,
I think you do it randomly. I think just to be fair to everybody, you just do a random picking of names and you do it that way and you stagger it appropriately. And you got to start somewhere. And, I think, I would say 3 years is a good standard to use. And then I think we need to be at the same time looking at committees that need to be dissolved when they should be dissolved rather than continue to be on a list.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I would also say that I would recommend Roadway Traffic Safety Committee has no term. I would recommend that we put a term there. And I think that's the only one that, medical reserve, that's not really a committee. Those are just people that volunteer to help with that. But I would recommend that, as we're looking at this, that we add the Roadway Traffic Safety Committee to have a term.
And that could change very easily depending upon who retires and who would be interested in coming on that committee.
Right.
So yeah, if we were to make that a 3-year term, if you make it a yearly term, there's a lot of turnover and stuff in that.
Yeah.
And I think if you do it 3 years,
Yeah,
you should
I
have
don't
some
think.
consistency.
Yeah, I don't know that any of them. I'm looking at the one like for South Middlesex. They're recommending that gets turned into a 3-year. I think that makes perfect sense.
And I see the land
stewardship committee is also a 1 year. Let's tie that into most of our other ones and make that a 3 years.
Yeah.
Isn't that a Concom committee though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Well, but
we
to
could
go to your
recommend
point,
that they
though-
look at doing it a 3-year versus a 1 year.
Right.
yeah,
Like,
and
trying to get
maybe
some
I don't.
continuity.
Maybe they're the appointing authority, but we may be the people that control the terms. Is that possible?
I'll have to look into that, Rob. I don't think so. Where
Okay.
you have control of the land stewardship committee is you have control of who's on the conservation commission.
Right.
Okay.
If you want to
That
go
seems
in the
reasonable.
direction there, the land stewardship committee, you would maybe look at the composition of the conservation commission.
Would it be reasonable to suggest that any committee that's part of a building group committee for a public building, be it a school or be it a governmental building, is done until completion? So that way you have that cohesiveness within that committee without having people worry about whether they get reappointed or not, or whether somebody wants to get on because they don't like the way that it's being conducted, or they don't like the idea or the model design of the building that's being worked at. So this would be someone's way of derailing a project halfway into the project. If you try to understand what I'm trying to ask.
I think that I think that makes sense, that if you're doing a building project, that you're there until completion, because as Michael has said, there are dates that, that we can see that those projects will be completed. So I would recommend that we leave the Public Safety Building Committee and the Mendez School Building Committee until completion, that we take public safety, the roadway traffic safety, Upper Charles Trail, and Valentine property, and give those terms.
And should we suggest to the Board of Health that they should put a term limit on the Medical Reserve Corps, seeing that there are no terms on that?
I don't think so, because I think that's something where people apply to do it, and then, sometimes they're busy, sometimes they're not. And I think they're not having a term. It's, you volunteer.
Yep.
And if you have a term, then they have to worry about reappointing and stuff like that, I think.
And I think there's specialized knowledge and information that a lot of folks have that you may want to maintain.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just concerned. I was thinking about future building projects coming down, down the road. I'm not talking about the ones that are already in the pipeline and being worked on, but any future building projects that, they would be, they wouldn't have to go and have term limits type of deal.
Right.
So if we were to do that, I'd have no problem with that.
Okay. So let's do these one at a time. Can I get a motion to make the Upper Charles Trail Committee a term of 3 years for each of the 9 members?
So moved.
Okay,
Second,
thank you. I have a yes and a second. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mignani,
aye.
Kinsman,
Aye.
Shearer,
Aye.
and Greaves. Aye. Okay, so Upper Charles Trail will now be a 3-year term. We'll work with the current group to divvy them up 3 by 3 so that they each expire within, so that
Yeah.
they're not all expiring at the same time.
Right.
Okay, I make I'm looking for a motion for the Valentine Property Committee to be I think a 1-year term. Or do
May-
we want to keep that 3?
May I suggest actually it's a 2-year term?
Sure.
Only because there could be, hopefully something happens with that property next year. Things are moving in that direction.
Okay.
And then hopefully you would see something be restored or reconstructed, however we want to call it, next year. And then again, like some decommissioning aspects going into 2022.
But why
Okay.
don't you just keep it as completion?
Yeah, then let's just do that,
If
Michael.
the building is a building project, let's treat it the same way.
Okay. So the next one, I'm looking for a motion to make the Roadway Traffic Safety Committee a 3-year term.
So
I'll make
moved.
that motion.
So I'll second
I
that.
have a so moved and a second. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Kinsman,
Aye.
and Shearer.
Aye.
And Greaves, aye. Great. So public safety, roadway traffic safety now has a 3-year term. I believe that's all we wanted to look at. Question.
Oh, smock. What about smock?
Yes, and that's, yes, we have to do that. Yep. So let's, I'm looking for a motion to make the smock term 3 years versus 1 year.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second,
Okay. Shearer,
Aye.
Kinsman,
Aye.
Mignani,
aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. So smock is now a 3-year term versus a 1-year term. Ashland Housing Trust is a 2-year term. Should that be a 3-year term in line with other ones? Joe, you're on that?
No, I'm not. I'm on the Affordable Housing Trust.
You're on the,
Yeah.
What's this?
I don't know if this is the old,
Oh,
that was the old Affordable Housing Committee. Now that I'm looking at it.
because
Which is
I'm not
the-
even seeing the Affordable Housing Trust on here.
No, because it's, I don't see that either.
But that's our appointment, right?
Yes, and it's been 3 years. Because Steve and I just got our appointment for 3
Reappointments,
years.
right. Okay. So let's double check what that is, and if we need to address it, we can. Okay. Okay, so I think that deals with terms. Do we want to continue the discussion tonight to talk about term limits?
Can
If
I
not,
make a suggestion?
yes,
I had several meetings ago, I had put together some information about term limits and so on.
correct.
That was really kind of a more or less quick overview. I really think maybe we should dig into it a little bit more, see what other communities are doing.
Okay.
And, how deep they get into term limits. I happen to be a fan of term limits, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do. I think
Okay.
we should give it some serious thought, and then by looking at what other communities do, and then make our best decision.
Okay, and I think
Okay.
that will also help with our discussion on reviewing appointees and things like that we were going to discuss further, Steve. So, okay, great. We're going to let this go. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for that input. Going on, discuss date for special elections. and town meeting. Michael, I'm going to let you start with this.
I think we're going to limit, I think the discussion was limited to the election tonight.
Okay.
As we have been talking about, as we have been talking about town meeting and a special town election for the two building projects, we have been talking mostly, or really almost exclusively about having that in December, including the election. And as we have seen the clerk's office manage and have to deal with the requirements of early voting and mail-in voting, it is, for lack of a better term, overwhelming. Consistently, what happens is that the state puts very well-intended mandates on communities and yet does not put the required funding to make that happen. So currently we're actually working, we're actually pulling in staff from other people, from other departments to make sure that we can get stuff out. Under the current law, any election that happens in 2020 would have to be conducted in a similar way. Obviously, when we told Tara and Cindy that, they
were ready to quit.
were a little bit distressed, let's put it that way. So I wanted to, for discussion and potentially decision is moving that election to January. So
Okay.
we decide that.
So this would be as the special election that's needed as the ballot portion of the building projects that we're looking at.
Correct.
Okay.
And why is January better, Michael? Just in terms of getting away from November 3rd, or?
No, because you do not have the requirements of, like, the current requirements.
All the
of
mail-in stuff.
and all of that stuff.
But we might well have that continue, right? Depending on what happens, but.
That is a possibility, but it would give us some time if we do move it to January to at least catch a breath between November and.
Yeah.
So town meeting would still be projected to be sometime in early December, Michael, and the election would be in January.
Correct. Unless, Brandy, you've had discussions with your group that indicate town meeting could be otherwise.
No, we're still working through the details. Our moderator was going to talk to town council with some questions that he had, and we're going to regroup probably pretty soon, I would think, to discuss that and dates. But we were looking at, I think the first 2 weeks in December was what we've talked about, but we haven't set a date yet for town meeting. But that's what we're looking at.
Because Michael,
Yeah,
wasn't
I have
there?
a question. Yeah.
Hold on,
Sure.
Michael. Wasn't there some consideration that we were going to do the ballot vote first? Because then if it doesn't pass at the ballot, we don't need to do town meeting? Isn't that, wasn't that some of the thought?
That would have been the byproduct.
Okay.
We actually were looking at December 8th for this town
For
meeting.
For the election, right.
And, really that was kind of what we had as almost the definitive date. And then it was, trying to find a date for town meeting. And depending on where that fell, it would have been before or after. I don't think we were trying to sequence it.
Oh, okay.
Specific way. It's just as we have, encountered, going through this November election, it is quite overwhelming. Again,
Yeah.
Great intentions. It's just democracy. I mean, if you have a situation where, like in a neighboring community where 3,000 votes are found somewhere else, obviously it just discredits the whole integrity of the election. So we're really cognizant of that.
But the big issue, Michael, is that because of the regulations that were passed, if I, as a registered voter, say, I want every ballot in 2020 to be mailed to me, that's what we're dealing with, right? So we would have to, every registered voter who said, mail me a ballot for the 2020 elections would have to be mailed a ballot for the local election if we do it in December.
Actually, Yolanda, I don't know if they have to request it. Jen, you might be able to shed some light on this. Or is it required that we send them a ballot, whether they request it or not?
My understanding was that if they did a request before the primary to say every ballot in 2020.
Yeah, so you've had a couple options. So you could have done it at the primary, you could have done it leading up to this election in November, and you can either check this one election, which most people did not do, or all elections in 2020. And so in checking with the town clerk, we have over 5,500 ballots that have been requested by mail, and at least 4,000 of those, and probably upwards of 4,500 of those have checked all.
Yeah, that
All of-
sounds right. Yeah. That's because that's what I did. I'm waiting for my ballot, so.
They're working very hard on it right now.
Is there any timeline for the MSBA that we have to meet to have the vote done before it can move forward? Is there restrictions on the school building project?
There is a timeline. I believe we are within that. I need to pull up my timeline and see exactly when that is if we'll continue discussing it.
Any other thoughts on moving the election to January?
I think it seems like a good plan, given November election, then December town meeting, that spacing it out a bit is probably the best plan, assuming we can do it.
I think it makes it cleaner for everybody involved, especially the town clerk's office. They're gonna need a breather.
Okay.
So I can double check on the timeline vis-a-vis the MSBA, and then we can come back and have a more, let's just say a more definitive or final discussion about this.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but it seems like we're leaning toward move the special election that we need to have to January.
I want to be just sure about the MSBA. I know we left ourselves
Yeah.
plenty of time. Lonnie, you remember that?
Yeah, I know we went back and forth with that discussion, and then we were saying December, so it would be good. We need to finalize that. And as I've said, I think we need to talk to the MSBA and say, look, because of what's going on, if we need to push our vote out a month or two, what impact, if anything, would that have? Because
that would be good to know too, just for town meeting as well, just in case.
Right. They've got to be getting this request from more than just us. Other communities have got to be dealing with trying to get in touch with their residents and having the discussion and being able to have a valid vote. Okay, great. Anything else on the date for the special election, Michael?
No, that's it.
Okay, and then we do have to vote to post and sign the November 3rd, 2020 election warrant. If I can get a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
We'll do it in reverse order. Shearer,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Kinsman,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. Thank you. You will need signatures from all of us, Susan? Okay. So if everyone the next day or two can stop at town hall and,
Sue, do we need to call up again and just let you know when we're coming in?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, Garden Club request for funding. So as I mentioned at our last meeting, I was reached out to by Gretchen Brevikas, who is now the president of the Ashton Garden Club. She was aware of the fact that our grants were on hold. They had put a request in for the spring, but nothing was given. So in your packet is the information. It's her letter talking about what they've done with our funds. I think they've used them very well. I think if you drive through town, you see that they've been doing a lot of good work. They are requesting $2,500 so they can start preparing and planning. They'll do stuff for the holidays as well as moving into the spring. So rather than ask for their full amount of 5,000, she and I discussed it, and she said, "Yep, we can go with 2,500." I mean, if you look at how they spent it, you can see that it was
Yeah.
well done. It was well used. So
So
I'm
moved.
gonna, okay. I have a motion for the 2,500
I'll second it.
and a second. Shearer,
Aye.
Kinsman,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
and I'm going to abstain because I am now a member of the Garden Club.
Ooh,
So
yes.
Yeah.
Ah,
Well, congratulations. And I
thank
think
you.
Oh,
we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the very nice ceremony for Lois's dogwood tree that some of us attended on Sunday. That was very
Yeah,
nice.
it was amazing, and I was going to do this at board report, but I'll do it real quick now. The impact that she and her husband had in our community for the short time that they lived here. They moved in 2008, and she passed in 2019. And from her work with the community gardens and with her husband, her and Stan with the farmers market and just the different events. So I think we are definitely as a community fortunate to have had them
Yeah.
here in our community.
Might want to just make note that Lois and Stan were short time members of our community, and they dived right
Yep.
into all of these activities and really had a big impact. And Stan was such a big part of helping us to create the farmers market. And our shed is dedicated to Stan. There's a plaque on our shed for Stan.
I found out that I think Lois's brother donated the funds for the shed or something. And so it was great to
Very
hear. Great. Okay. Moving on. Thank you all. I will let Gretchen know that has been approved.
Yep.
Consent agenda, approve our regular session minutes from September 2nd, 2020 and September 16th, 2020. Waive the 15-day waiting period for the town manager's appointment of Danielle Spinner, Vera Lakshmi Natarajan, and Kevin Lewis, who have accepted positions of remote learning assistants. Reappoint Kimberly Wales to Ashland Cable Access for a 3-year term that will expire October 31st, 2023. Appoint Robert Guillaume for Metro West Constable Service as an additional constable. Declare surplus 2 Bunton lawnmowers, and accept the resignation of Alexander White from the Sustainability Committee, Rick Hampson from the Upper Charles Trail Committee, and Nadine Nesbitt from the Valentine Property Committee, with our thanks for their service. If I can get a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
a quick question.
Hold on,
with
let's get a second and then we can have discussion.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. And discussion, go ahead, Joe.
Could you please explain the title of remote learning assistant? I think some people need to know what that is all about.
I'm gonna let Michael do that.
Yeah.
Or Jen.
So I'll give you a brief explanation. If you want to go into it more, I think Jen could provide it. But so Kelly Run is offering through her program some assistance programs for school-age children as well, or in addition to the school stuff that's happening. And so these people help support the 3 that you have here supports that program.
So it's in addition to what the school is providing. So is this part of the Ashland Rec program?
Yes.
And has nothing to do with the schools? Because I was asked that and I didn't have an answer, and I felt kind of foolish not having one. So, okay.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
And this is the program that's being held at the community center in the large room.
The big room.
Yes. Yeah.
Is
Okay.
the thought it's only going to be for this particular school year, or is it sort of open-ended depending on what the need is?
Well, I think it's open-ended in a number of different ways. I think, we're still gauging our capacity to do it. And also we're seeing what the need and the demand of it is going to be. So it is a lot. We want to give, I think, Kelly a lot of recognition for taking this on. I think it's one of the few communities that is offering this type of program to try to provide these supports for families. But like I said, it is a lot. So we're evaluating it as it goes on.
Is this in competition with Champions program, the after-school program that the school is offering?
No.
Okay.
And I would think that if people are asking for it, Joe, there's probably a need.
Oh,
Right?
I don't
All these
doubt it.
programs have to limit their numbers. So.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. That's fine.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Kinsman,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Scherer,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. And that passes 5-0. Thank you, everybody.
Could I just note, thank Rick Hampson for his work on the Upper Charles Trail Committee. We'll miss him. So thanks, Rick.
Yeah, Rick, and we should also extend best wishes to Alexandra and to Nadine for their
Oh, of course.
participation as well. So
Absolutely.
Always nice. It's always hard when you see people step down. So that means we have an opening on the Sustainability Committee, an opening on the Upper Charles Trails Committee, and an opening on the Valentine Proper Committee. So if any of those interest you and you're following or listening to this meeting, please consider submitting a talent bank form. Okay, moving on. Priority project update, Rail Transit District. To first item, discuss and vote on the LIP Local Initiative Program for United Group of Companies for their projects. Michael, if you would take us through, hopefully everyone had the opportunity to read the information that Lisa submitted to us. And if you have any questions, now is the time. But Michael, go ahead and start us off.
Sure. So just to review the process for you and also anybody who is watching. So UGC has expressed interest in developing Lot 2 of the Rail Transit District. This actually was brought to us 2.5 years ago. Since that time, the board has been engaged in working a development agreement between the town and UGC that outlines a number of terms and conditions, including the affordable units, what percentage affordability level they would be in, things like fees, et cetera. Boundaries actually was a unique one for this. And so the next step of this process is it's going to be done as a 40B application is you submit this as part of the local initiative program. This is something that the board would put into DHCD. Traditionally, the applicant is the one who actually prepares the LIP, and that has been the case here with UGC. And that LIP application should contain the elements that are contained in the development agreement, as well as some standardized things. So once we received the application, we did have Attorney Mead, Town Council, review the application, make sure that it was in line with everything that the board wished for in the development agreement, and everything was correct and appropriate and in line with the DHCD submission. Attorney Mead summarized it up pretty well. It's still quite a few pages, but as you see, there's a lot going on. Her recommendation is that this does meet all the requirements, and that the board, should you choose to approve it, she would be okay with that.
Opening it up for questions and comments. Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, just one question. Yeah, it looks good with the things we talked about. But there's no mention of the open space delineation. Is that not part of this particular agreement, or how does that work?
No, oh, you mean the piece that's given back to the town?
Yes.
No, it would not be part of the LIP application.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it was nice to have, it was nice to have Lisa's review of it, but then, you know, I went through all the parts that she recommended we review, and
Yep.
I think it makes sense. It does match with what we requested of them, so that was good. Okay, Brandy, any questions or thoughts?
No, I think I'm good. It's pretty straightforward, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Good, then I am looking for a motion that the Select Board endorse the local initiative program application for a comprehensive permit for the Arbella at Ashland located on the MBTA access road, including 180 age-restricted rental units, including 25% affordable units, of which 4 units shall be at 50% median income, 5 units shall be at 60%, and the remaining affordable units at 80% median income, and further that the chair be authorized to execute the application on behalf of the board.
So moved.
Second,
Just one question.
Hold on, let's finish the motion. If I can get a second.
got a second here.
Okay, now Rob, you can discuss.
Just, shouldn't it be Memorial Drive rather than the MBTA access road?
I'm sorry, I did not. It should be Memorial Drive, actually.
Okay.
So
So
we will
we
just
can
make that.
amend that motion
Scrivener's
to
error.
be Memorial Drive instead of MBTA access road. Okay,
Good catch, Rob.
That is a good catch, Rob.
anything else? No? Okay. Kinsman,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shear,
Aye.
and Greaves. Aye. That passes 5-0. I know Tom Powers was here. We didn't need his questions. If you want, I don't know if he wanted to chime in on anything. We want to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any
Appreciate
questions?
all. I appreciate everybody's hard work on this, and we look forward to working with you to get this expedited and through the process.
Sounds great, Tom. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Have
Yep.
a great night.
You
Good
too,
luck,
Tom.
Good luck.
And
Great.
thanks to UGC for working with us, and actually congratulations to the board. I think the development agreement you worked on, or you have with this, with UGC is a good one for the town, and I think it's a good one for the developer too.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, and Mike, thank you for your work, and Jen and the rest of the staff that worked on this.
Great.
It was quite a journey.
It was.
Yep.
It was a journey, and thank you all very much.
Thanks,
You're
Tom.
welcome, Tom. Thank you. We look
All right,
forward to
everybody, have a
look
great
forward
night.
to seeing the finished product.
We're gonna get there.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Michael, thank you very much.
Welcome, Tom. Take it easy.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.
You too, Tom.
Okay. Next is downtown update, Michael.
Yes, so BSC Group, Giosio, who is the contractor, Doug Small, Jen, myself, met earlier this week to formalize a couple of the contract documents. One of the things that we are still having with is getting some final numbers from Eversource, as well as Comcast and Verizon, in terms of some of their equipment costs. So we are going to need to start rationing up the pressure for them on that. It has gotten to the point where it is unacceptable. I mean, everybody understands that COVID has created a problem, and it hinders a lot of stuff that we're doing, but and Eversource is included in that, but this has just gone on too long. So I hope to be engaging our legislative delegation and helping with this amount.
Okay, good. I just want to add, I think we had a good discussion at our last meeting with the presentation from Rich Gordon and Gordon Realty on the mill building projects. And I just want to reiterate, and again, we don't have too many people watching today, but hopefully it gets out there. That was the first pass. And the idea that they were working with town staff and town staff supported it before it even came to the board, that's part of the process, is that for a developer to do something, they have to meet with town staff to then be able to get it to the select board. So I felt it was inappropriate that people were like, the town staff is already in the bag for this project. So I just wanted to put that out there as we're talking about the downtown. That was the first step. As with any projects that we've seen, it takes a while for a project to move through the process. And that meeting, our last meeting, was the first step. And, you know, the mill buildings aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So I just had to put that out there.
Yeah, there was a lot of conjecture on Facebook that was
Cheap.
put out there with false information and not accurate information,
Right.
which is why I commented and said what I said. So
That's a good point, Yolanda, and I think, you know, most people don't realize the process, how long these projects actually take to, you know, from the original seed of the idea to a shovel in ground, and you're talking years of
Right.
back and forth. And you know, whether you like the project or not, that's okay. That's
Right.
fine. But you know, to impugn, you know, the process and the work of a lot of people in good faith is
Right.
just plain wrong.
Right. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think as a community, we're going to have more projects come before us. And, you know, it's a process, as with anything. So anyway.
May I,
Hey, one thing Well, since you brought it up, one thing I'd like to throw out there is that most cities kind of keep their mill buildings and redevelop them with big open spaces. And in this case, I think you'd do better if you had more kind of keeping some of the older buildings
I'm not-
and breaking
well,
up the roof line. So
I don't want to go into the details of the project because, we
It'll
could
go forever.
we go
Yeah.
for a long time. That was not my point. My point was that that people need to understand that sometimes there is a process that has to happen with staff before it can become a public process. Now it's a public process. So that was my big point on that. So Michael, you wanted to add something?
Well, first, I just wanted to say thank you for pointing that out. We do sit kind of silent when that type of derogatory commentary starts coming out. And we really do appreciate you taking the time to let people know how this actually works. I think people need to understand that just because what was presented to the board is not necessarily something that we support. And in fact, a lot of times that applicant is given advice in terms of things that only in the sense that things are very, very consistent in terms of a reduction in size, a more commercial space, some common values that have been established in the town that are very, very clear. And it is up to the applicant at that point to decide whether or not they want to incorporate that before they do an initial presentation, if they want to go ahead and put what their original project is in front of the board and then take the feedback.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
again, thank you for that.
You're welcome. If
That's
there's
fine. I
nothing-
just wanted to give my feedback, more feedback. So
anything else on downtown, Michael?
No, nothing else on downtown.
Okay, public safety building update.
Sure. We've got a couple things, and Joe, Jen, and Steve, if you don't mind, I can run through
Sure.
the Conservation Commission, and then maybe you could talk about some of the design process for once. For once, I'll stay out of the design process. How's that?
That's a good idea, Michael.
You think so? Okay.
Wait, really? Are we gonna get that in writing?
Yep.
Sorry.
Wow.
Uh,
Oh,
well,
this is a tough room.
well deserved. So this public safety building project has gone before the planning board and design review. Before the planning board is a site plan review process. The next step was the notice of intent with the Conservation Commission to receive an order of conditions to build this project. Now, I know we have talked about this before, and we've talked about it publicly, and I've put it out in correspondence and public correspondence. But as of now, we are still waiting for Howard Fafford to turn over the deed to this gift property to the town. So until he does that, we have to rely upon him to provide permission for us to go through any of these regulatory processes, including the Conservation Commission. Unfortunately, Howard's company on September 22nd gave us permission to proceed with the NOI with his support. And then on September 29th, he decided to withdraw or revoke that support. So unfortunately, on Monday night, we could not open the hearing for the public safety building. Now, the Conservation Commission was very gracious and indulged us in allowing us to present the project informally. But it is still, it puts us a little bit behind the 8 ball. There wasn't the ability to give much feedback from the commission or have the commission ask questions and our consultants answer them because it wasn't a public hearing. So that happened on Monday night. On Monday night, the Conservation Commission also continued it, even though it wasn't a hearing, until October 19th. In a very strongly worded email to Fafford's attorneys on Tuesday. And yesterday afternoon, early evening, we received permission to move forward with the NOI. Again, a day late. So that is where we stand right now with the notice of intent in the
Hmm.
public safety building.
Wow.
It's unfortunate that we have gotten to this point.
But also, Michael, I think it's reasonable to point out that we need the deed to the gifted property. And that is critical to us moving forward with both a town meeting vote and an election. We need to control that property in order for us to ask the taxpayers to fund it.
Right.
And so that's the next critical piece in play here.
There's just, if anybody is watching, so board in 2018 signed a gift agreement with Howard Fafford, and it outlined very clearly the steps that the town was going to take in terms of effectuating that gift agreement. And it also outlined when Fafford was going to grant that deed. We have done everything that we are required to do under that gift agreement. We have actually tried to work with him on things outside of the gift agreement just to be working in good faith. And we still do not have that deed. And Steve is exactly correct. Until we have control of that property, we are not able to build at all. So again, it's unfortunate that we're at this point.
Keep us updated.
I will. And then,
Anything else on the public safety building?
that they, Joe or Steve?
Did you want me to talk about what we did today, or I was going to do that board reports, but we're on it now.
Why don't you do it now, Joe, while we're
Okay,
talking about the public
sure.
safety building?
We, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Michael. The committee had a first meeting together collectively in person. It was done outside. Social distancing was kept at best. And we were there to look at materials for the exterior portion of the building, what the building would actually look like with the materials that were going to be utilized. There were 4 options that were presented to the committee, all of which looked very, very nice in their design. They were very color coordinated, material coordinated. And there were some things I wish were there but weren't, but that's okay. I'm just 1 out of 7 that, that selected the group. And we're looking at, I believe that the materials that we're looking at would be a lighter reddish masonry brick for the lower portion of the building. And if I'm correct, is that right, Jen? The lower portion, the first part of the building, and then there will be a lighter brick tone throughout, and then there's some metal standards that would be utilized to fill in between the standards and the walls and the windows, which the windows will be all black in frame.
So Joe,
So-
was this with input from design review? Because I remember hearing when design review looked at it, they had some comments about what it was looking like.
We had Bill Savage from the Design Review Committee was there.
Okay.
He gave his opinion. We thought it'd be best that he give his opinion, and he liked some of the things that were there. He didn't like some of the things that weren't there. Well, that were there as well. But all in all, I think at the end when we took a vote to make the decision as to what we wanted, Bill was in agreement with what we had, and
Okay.
with some tweaking that we're going to be doing, and we're waiting for that information to come back to us.
Okay.
Because we need to get. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I just wanted to just acknowledge Bill. I think he really added a lot of value to this process today. He's in the design field. He's got, he's in the architectural field. So I think he added a lot of value. So I'm glad he was there, and I think his input was terrific.
Yeah. So we're going with a traditional New England look,
Oh, good.
not anything, outlandish or whatever. So it's not going to look like a federal building. It's not going to look like something that came out of, futuristic type design. It's going to be very traditional, and I think it'll. Go ahead, Michael. What were you going to say?
I am not the design expert.
Madam Chair is making me laugh. I'm sorry.
Well,
But
I know. I have not been I've been following it, but not in the detail. I recently drove by Southborough's newest public safety building, and it's a very traditional looking building. It fits right in with the community.
Mhm.
So I think if we're going toward that route, that's a positive.
Well, that's exactly what we're looking at, Madam Chair. And we're trying to look at the flow of the design as well with the rendition and the renewing of the downtown area.
Right.
And also we have, the newer high school building, which is just down the road, a couple hundred yards
Which
away.
is also a pretty traditional looking building. So
Correct.
Yeah.
But the brick is not going to be as bright red as that
that's
building.
fine.
So it'll be a little softer in tone.
I
We
think
want to make it
Michael's holding
friendly.
his mouth shut.
Oh, I'm fine.
He's fine.
Good. Okay.
No,
Anything else on the
But
public
for the
safety
record,
building?
he left early. He left early. I just want to let you know, he left early. Am I right, Jen? He left early.
That is true.
And it went smooth.
Well, I have just one more comment about the public safety building. And it's just really a comment on the quality of our consultants. Both HKT, our wetlands consultants on Monday night were terrific. I think our traffic study people are doing a terrific job. So I just wanted to mention that. I think we're fortunate to have that team.
Great.
I mean, we've got some nice praises from Concom and other boards that we've had to go before. And they were all in agreement that this was a very well thought of, well designed building. And hopefully we can get this thing off the ground and get it built for the citizens to enjoy and be proud of. So that's what we're trying to do. Jen, anything else you want to add?
Do we have a date yet for the next public forum? I know that
It's Saturday.
This Saturday?
Yeah, I was going to make the announcement this Saturday between 11 and 1 at the pavilion down at Stone Park, right next to Kid Spot.
Okay. So it's not going to be like a televised
No,
public? Okay.
no.
And we're looking to make that a combined public safety and Mendez project at Kid Spot in the pavilion with information so people can come in properly masked, properly social distanced, ask some questions and see some stuff in person.
I'm sorry, Lon, did you say and Kid Spot? So it'll be two locations or
No,
just
no,
one?
no, the pavilion next to Kid Spot,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
right?
Okay.
That's where the
Yeah.
pavilion is. Some people know Kid Spot and not the pavilion. So
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, if there's nothing else for the public safety building, going on to Warren District and Valentine Estate.
Yeah, I'll actually focus on Valentine tonight because there's been a lot of movement within the last couple of weeks, thanks to the committee and actually thanks to Jen and Beth Reynolds. So I think I've brought you up to speed on the fact that the Valentine Committee has talked about a number of uses. I think all of the uses that the board has brought up as potential uses, they feel like we've got a comprehensive list. When we looked at being able to do that as a town and do any of those things, it is prohibitively expensive. And I'm not talking about like, oh, it's $1 or $2 million. We're talking something more along the lines of $8 and $10 million. And that's just for the restoration of the property. It does not count like the operational aspects and the ongoing costs associated with it. And so we're trying this approach of putting together a request for proposals to see if the private sector has any interest in executing one or more of the uses that have been articulated in by various different people on the board and also the Valentine Committee. Jen's really put it all together, I think, in the last, couple weeks. We're going to be meeting with the Valentine Committee on Thursday to review that RFP and some of the criteria. Also on Thursday, somebody will be going to the planning board to talk about a Valentine overlay district to apply to the Valentine property that would allow the uses that have been described in the RFP. I think it should be noted that, whether or not the town did it or whether or not a private entity did it, it still would need to go through a zoning change. And this zoning change, as it is an overlay, will only be applied to the Valentine parcel. I think that's important as well. So a lot of movement, a lot of flurry of activity with regards to that. And we're hoping to see something positive come out of that.
That's nice to hear. I guess I think just to reiterate what you said, Michael, in regards to the zoning change required for the Valentine estate, to do anything other than allow people to live there, we need to do a zoning change. All these great things people have talked about, we need a zoning change to be allowed to do that, correct?
If you want to do a restaurant or function space, if you want to do like a historical society type of venue like Holliston, a Thayer Homestead type of venue like in Medway, you need a zoning change.
Okay, just reiterating that, because again, it's one of those things where people are saying, why are we putting a zoning change before when we don't know? Well, we know based on the research, to do anything other than allow people to live there, a zoning change is required for the Valentine estate.
Correct.
Okay.
When are we thinking, can I just ask a question? When are we thinking of asking for the zoning change?
Well, you know, we're really hoping, and I think the stars have to align on this. Is hopefully this upcoming town meeting, we would have a proposal. So let me just go back through the process. So once we receive proposals, we'll have a team review those proposals, submit the recommendation to the select board, who has to approve that proposal. We hope to take that to town meeting, because you need a town meeting vote to dispose of the property. And when I say dispose, I mean transfer the property. It doesn't mean throw it away in the garbage. That sometimes gets miscommunicated that way. And then also the corresponding zoning change. Again, I think the stars have to align on this, but there's a little bit more urgency than a few months ago, simply because of the condition of the barn. A lot of people focus on the roof. It's not necessarily the roof that we're that concerned about. It's actually, you know, the foundation. The timbers of the roof are in great shape. Now the sheathing is very in bad shape, but it's not even original sheathing that goes on top, the actual roof. We're more concerned about the foundation.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Madam? Just Michael, so yeah, I think you're moving in the right direction. I'm just concerned. Isn't this a horrible time to go out to bid in terms of the economy? And I mean, what kind of proposals do you think we might get, or is that an issue?
Rob, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. You know, it's right now, it's about the only option that we have. You know, I know Beth and Jen and members of the committee and myself will certainly, and I would assume the board actually, will certainly promote this RFP and encourage as many people as possible to submit proposals and valid proposals. And then we're also working concurrently on a bigger plan to secure the foundation of the barn. It's going to be a very expensive plan, but that can be kind of like our fallback plan B. Let's put it that way. Give us a little more time.
Michael, is that a stone foundation?
It is a stone foundation. It's kind of a mishmash right now, Joe.
Okay.
It's a stone foundation. There's a lot of lally columns in there that are not necessarily on anything solid. It's pretty interesting. The sill plates, which is what it actually sits on, a lot of those are rotted. And the joists and holding up the beams and everything are in pretty bad shape as well.
I have one more question, Madam Chair, if you don't mind.
No,
Does
go
the
right ahead.
Historical Society or Historical Council get involved with respect to the fact that somewhat of a stone foundation and the historical aspect of it, and how that needs, or should it be repaired and kept up to date or made up to date?
Jen, you can probably explain this better because the RFP outlines at a minimum what needs to be saved as part of the barn and the house. And I believe the foundation, they need to repair as much as they can. If they need to replace a sill plate, they can do that. We're not looking at a wholesale change of foundation. They have to keep the rafters and the collar ties and all of that chestnut wood that you can't find anymore. A lot of those are required to stay in any kind of proposal. That makes sense. Just needs to be repaired.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the Valentine? And then if not, do we have any updates on the Warren District, Michael?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Moving out of priority project updates, moving into town manager report. Michael, go ahead.
Oh, caught me on my agenda here. Sorry. Oh, so the first one is a happy town manager report. Come on, they're all happy.
Happy. Very good.
So as you know, the board has commissioned and been very supportive of 2 national community survey efforts. The first one in 2016 and then the second one in 2019. And you remember when we got the 2016 survey results, it had a lot of great information and it allowed us to really kind of put together almost an agenda, if you will, for the next few years, which we continue to work on. One component of that agenda, and a very major component, was the preservation of open space. Another one was trying to develop a more robust public process and citizen engagement process. And so when we did the 2019 survey, we were really anxious to see how people perceived how we did in some of those areas. And as you know, in 2019, we received great scores. It doesn't mean that we don't have room for improvement. But the scores were so much that they caught the attention of the National Citizen Survey or National Community Survey administrators, which is POLCO, and then also ICMA, which is the International City County Management Association. They have something each year called the Voice of the People Awards. And it's very competitive. They look at the scores and the differences in scores. And if there's a significant change, communities get these awards based on different categories. This year, we were the recipient and the winner of the Transformation in Open Space and Natural Environment Award from ICMA at this year's ICMA conference. And then we were also a finalist, which is runner-up for the Citizens Engagement category. So just to give you a little context, up to 1,000 communities do the survey each year. Only 100 are asked or nominated to be awarded these awards, and only 19 received them this year. So I think we all can be very, very proud. It's a community effort because it takes board support, it takes staff support, it takes town meeting support. So again, just want to congratulate the community and thank everybody for taking the time to do that survey. So.
And I just want to add an extra congratulations and thank you to Jen, because I know she has, coordinated that and both years that we have done it. So thank you, Jen, for taking that on. And I think we've gotten some great information. And I love that the information that we've gotten, we've actually used. We didn't just do the survey and put it on a shelf. We actually took that information and it helped guide some of our decisions as to what we're doing when we went from the 2016 to the 2019 survey. So thank you, Jen, for that work. And of course, all the staff who supported you, because I know it's not a one-person job, but thank you. Okay.
I agree. Good job. Nice
Moving
work.
on.
Everybody. Nice work, everybody.
Congratulations. So I'll move on to a COVID update, and that'll segue into a Halloween update as well. COVID, we are seeing a similar uptick as other communities are, and as Massachusetts is in general. We're not seeing necessarily a widespread uptick in it. We're seeing some isolated pockets. And when I say pockets, it's really kind of code for households. So we're in decent shape there. We are looking to be doing a little bit better than some of our surrounding communities in terms of containing things. One of the things that we did receive within the last couple of weeks is our own testing machine, as well as testing kits. So we have potential exposures of any of our staff, and that includes school staff. We have the ability to test them rapidly and get results very quickly, so we can make adjustments and take the actions that are necessary to keep it from spreading. So I want to thank Berman for that, and Jen as well. They were really the point people on getting that machine. And today I think they had their first training. So that's a great, it's a great amenity that we have. It's really tough calling a testing machine that's so vital an amenity, but unfortunately that's what it is. Halloween, I've been getting a lot of questions about Halloween. Is it quote unquote canceled? I'm sure many of the board members have as well. I think the ability of any government to cancel non-formalized activities such as Halloween is very difficult. I know there are some communities that do that. Worcester being the most recent, the city manager canceled Halloween. It just hasn't been challenged yet. That being said, there is some specific guidance that can be taken to keep you and your family safe. There are also certain guidelines in place, like social distancing guidelines, masking guidelines. Those still apply, especially on October 31st. So I'll be promulgating more of that information as we get closer to Halloween, as it gets more defined throughout the state.
Well, I just had a question about, so we're meeting before Halloween, right? So, I guess I'm just wondering, should we consider or review what actions we should or shouldn't take regarding Halloween, I guess would be my question.
What actions?
My thought.
What actions would you anticipate us possibly taking?
Well, I don't know. I guess if we were presented with certain evidence, or we felt that we would take a formal position in terms of providing guidance to people of what they should be doing or not doing.
I'm gonna jump in here, and I don't always watch the governor's news conferences, the press conferences, but I watched his one. I think it was yesterday. He was in Salem, and I like his attitude. He said, "I am not going to cancel Halloween for the state. I feel it could bring people inside, where they're then going to have parties, where they're not going to be doing social distancing. I want to leave it at a town by town basis. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to let our residents be responsible for how they want to handle this holiday. I don't think we need to step in unless we're hearing something. I was going to touch base with Joe. I'm sure they're not doing their Halloween party like they usually do. I know Beth is planning something socially distanced safely at the corner spot. And I think we need to let neighborhoods and people determine for themselves how they're going to handle Halloween.
We all agree.
Okay,
with you.
so
I think the point that Rob is trying to make, and I do agree with him, it's not out of our boundaries to make recommendations, to make suggestions, just like the governor has. And all we may do is say the governor has suggested or recommended these guidelines. We support that. End of story.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want us to be very careful as to where we take this. That's all.
Right. And I understand that. I'm not saying I even have I don't even have a position at this point. I'm not saying I even know what we should be doing. I think we should just keep it in mind that we may want to be specific, or maybe not, but at least let's talk about it at the next meeting and, come up with, have that in our mind as possibly we will take a position or recommend something. Because the governor actually, what you just said, Yolanda, the governor is saying it's up to local communities, and I think we're good representatives of this community and should be prepared to
Yeah.
at least say something.
And I think the town has done a pretty good job thus far with being a steward during this pandemic. And I don't think it's, again, I think it's very reasonable. And I think, given the fact that we don't get a whole lot of good guidance from the upper levels of our governments, I think it becomes even more important for local government to at least be, I guess, supporting and recommending right practices, be safe, stay healthy.
And I do think that there's a level of personal comfort that kind of varies from family to family as far as Halloween is concerned. I've already had conversations with parents who, with young children that are, basically going to not allow their children to trick or treat. And I've heard from people who won't give out candy this year too, because they don't feel comfortable with it. So I think that there is sort of I think there's going to be a lot of personal choice as well. I believe we should, think about how we want to frame it, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that aren't comfortable with traditional trick or treating this year.
And I should point out, I mean, the chief and I are certainly open to any of the board's thoughts and recommendations on what you want to do in terms of that.
If I may, Madam Chair, you brought up the fact that Ashland Day has already decided that we have postponed for this year the annual town Halloween parade and party, due in part because it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
Sometimes common sense prevails more than anything else, and you're promoting an activity where people, social distancing with young kids. I mean, it's like herding kittens. That's not going to happen.
No, I mean, I think about what that event is usually like, and it's just not possible.
Oh, it's not possible.
and it
You're
wouldn't be
absolutely right.
safe.
And, you can't use the schools, and I understand that. So we accept that. We understand it. I know that Ashley Place, along with, Beth have come up with some other programs. The Scary Walk along the River Walk area is going to be utilized. So the Ashland Day Committee voted to help support.
Did we lose Joe?
Joe froze.
Joe froze. He was talking about the river walk and the spooky walk, and it sounds like
that
Ashland
sounds
Day is
scary.
supporting it. That should be fun. And I think they're looking for businesses to help support that as well. So I wonder if he lost his internet. I guess there's trees down on Route 9 and stuff.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of trees down.
Yep.
use his phone. Yeah, ours is still not up. I don't know.
Okay. Well, hopefully he'll come back. Okay. So I think that covers that. Moving on, housing.
Can I ask a question about, so I didn't, is there things in terms of the governor's changes, is there something we should, anything else we should be considering in terms of restaurants or indoors or anything like that's an issue, Michael, that you've seen, or?
That's a policy issue. Nothing that I've seen, Rob.
Because I thought there was some municipalities were like increasing the indoor capacity and things like that.
Yes, I believe restaurants can increase to, I think they're up to 50%, and performance venues can open socially distance in communities that are not high risk. So I think you have to be a yellow or green community. So that's the kind of thing, right? That's the kind of thing where we may want to check with our schools to see if they're going to start allowing their auditoriums to do stuff, because if they can do it socially distanced, then things can be going on.
But we don't have any purview, like, so are people increasing their capacity in Ashland or not? Like, what's the effect of the governor's order?
For restaurants, Michael.
I'm sorry, Joe had called me, and so
Sure.
He will be jumping back on.
Yep.
Tell him to use the cell phone.
So I apologize. I missed that.
No, I was just saying so the governor changed the restrictions, and I'm just wondering how that affects us. Are we increasing indoor capacity, or is there some action we should be taking or not taking?
Moving to like the phase 3, step 2 guidelines.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Ed is working on that right now, and seeing what that means and what that could mean. So,
But right now, we're not taking any action to change anything.
no, we have not. We've not moved forward with anything.
Okay.
There he is.
Hey, Joe, you're muted still. Unmute.
Sorry about that. We lost power again.
That's
So,
okay.
Yeah.
so that's what we plan on doing, Madam Chair, to help those on that 30th and 31st, the Saturday and Sunday of Halloween.
Nice.
So that's what we plan on doing.
Very nice.
So,
Okay.
I just had a question about the testing machine. That's great. Is this are these dependable rapid tests, or, because I know when they first came out, there was some issues. What's the dependability on these?
Well, I don't know in terms of like a ratio. I do know that if you do register a positive, you'll know within 5 minutes.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
effective, it'll take like 10 to 15 minutes, because what happens is if it runs the test and it comes back negative, it waits a few minutes and then runs it again to make sure that it's a negative before it definitively says that it's a negative. So it's pretty rapid.
Nice.
Great.
not like the agonizing way of having to wait from Sunday to get tested for a Wednesday procedure and then find out Tuesday night you don't have it, so for 3 days you're like on pins and needles waiting to hear that answer.
It is like being on pins and needles, right?
Oh yeah.
And Michael, who's this machine? Who can use this testing? Is there certain?
Well, we're using it for staff right now just because we have a limited number of kits. Again, the idea really was, I think the schools would definitely benefit from this just because of the ability to transmit within that environment is so great. So, again, the thought was if somebody had a suspected exposure, they could just go right away, get a test, and we would know right away. And we could immediately start locking things down and do contact tracing. So right now it's for employees. I don't think, Jen, I don't think there's a discussion yet to start expanding that, right?
No, I mean, we initially talked about it, but right now we have a limited number of tests. Obviously, if it became a great need, it's something that we discuss in the future. I think we're just trying to get a sort of a policy down on how we would implement it internally, and then there may be some opportunity.
Will our first responders be tested via those units?
If necessary, yeah, they
Okay.
can't.
The other, Madam Chair, if I could just point, I've been getting some kind of just comments, or I wouldn't call them complaints, but people have been noticing police officers on traffic detail standing close together without masks. I've heard that a couple times over the last few weeks, like on the 126 traffic detail. So I don't know, do we have certain criteria that the police officers are following when they're doing details, or should they be standing with a foot or two of each other chatting without masks on?
Rob, they shouldn't. I mean, unless there's like an emergency. I hope that's not the case, that is happening.
Well, this was just routine traffic, and it sounds like somebody needs to get the message, because the public's driving by seeing them, and it's not a good role model.
Yeah, it's not a good example. I would agree. I know the chief and the command staff have been very, very, very vigilant within the station in terms of their protocols and procedures. Anybody who comes in has to get their temperature checked. It's again a very robust type of process. So I'm disappointed to hear that that type of attitude and mindset is not necessarily being replicated.
Well, maybe they think because they're outside they don't need to mask or something. Maybe just some clarification on some of that. But
Okay, but I appreciate you bringing it up, Rob.
Sure, thanks.
Okay.
Moving on to the HAP, the Housing Assistance Program. Jen, do you want to give an update on that?
Excuse me. Yeah, sure. So Emma in our planning office continues to work with the Affordable Housing Trust on it's a rental and a mortgage assistance program for anybody who has had a loss of income due to COVID. And so right now we've received 25 applications. We've been able to approve 16 of those. We've been looking at the trends on what's making somebody ineligible. And we've had some discussions with the trust about possibly including an objective way to look at loss of opportunity, meaning, we've had some examples where maybe somebody has been unemployed for a longer period of time, but because they have young children in the schools, that's really limiting their ability to get employment, even if there was an opportunity. And so, how do we objectively quantify that loss of opportunity, and if that qualifies, if they're having some hardships in terms of paying their mortgage and or rent. And it's about split, it's split, I think almost probably close to 50% mortgage and rent. So that program has been pretty successful. We'll continue to push out the word to make sure that we're reaching people. And then we are coordinating with the emergency fund. So if there's any reason why we deem something ineligible, we've been working with Human Services to see if there's another way to assist that individual or family.
Good question. I know we had put aside a particular amount of money. I want to say it was 400,000, or was it? I think it was 400,000. How much of that has been already allocated? You said like 16.
So the last time I looked, so I don't have the exact amount, but the last time I looked, we had allocated about 60,000. And so each individual who receives assistance will get rental assistance for 3 months. They have to certify that they still need it each month. And so that may be, expenditures that are outside of, this month. It would be something we're paid out, but we've actually committed that funding.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Great. If no other questions on the housing assistance program, on to the micro enterprise grant update.
Sure, thank you. I'll give you a brief update about round one, which was just completed as part of the micro enterprise grant program. Again, this is the regional program that Beth and Brittany and Jen have been working and being a part of. Our initial allocation allowed for 28 grants of $10,000 each. At the end of round one, we had requests of that totaled $150,000. So again, that would mean 15 businesses were able to take advantage of it. We're moving now into round two. And so we have $130,000, almost $131,000 left to allocate. And so we're looking forward to moving that, forward. We were a little disappointed in terms of some of the ways that DHCD started classifying businesses that were eligible. They did kind of change them around a little bit. For example, it used to be, when we first started this process, it was 5 full-time employees was the limit. Then it became 5 full and part-time employees. So that eliminated a few potential businesses to be eligible for this, but we'll continue to work on that. I have heard some rumblings about a new grant program coming down the road, but I don't know if that was contingent upon federal stimulus money coming through, which from what I understand is no longer a possibility for this year.
Jesus.
That's something that we will keep on.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, we'll keep our
Never
ears.
say never. You never know.
That's right.
So that's the micro enterprise grant. So that's moving along,
Okay.
and congrats to
Yeah, great.
Beth for getting that forward.
Work, Michael. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I know it's not on the list, Michael, but we had a surprise from Eversource, from the siting board.
Oh, yes, we did.
Do we want to just, I know we probably can't go into a lot of detail, but just a real quick update if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So at the conclusion of the land court decision, the EFSB, once they were notified of the land court decision, asked both Eversource and the town to file briefs as to what that decision means in terms of the impact to the application that Eversource has before the EFSB. Of course, we submitted a brief that stated that it had a tremendous impact because now the primary route is no longer viable based on the land court decision. Eversource, as can be expected, submitted a brief that said, well, it really doesn't matter what the land court decision says. EFSB should go ahead and move forward and issue the decision, and they'll take care of the other stuff later. Recently, we received notification from the EFSB that they essentially said, wait, not so fast. Let's take some time and see what this means. And so they've actually reopened the record. The EFSB has reopened the record with regards to the cost of this project. Again, you look at, EFSB looks at different things, but they're limited in terms of things like need and cost and environmental impact. And so EFSB has opened up the record with regards to cost, which means that we can submit more information and request more information from Eversource.
Great, thank you for that. Thank you.
I
for
just
that.
had some questions about that. So and thank you, Michael, for sending that stuff out. I think it was a few days ago. There's been so much material, but I think but if I understand it right, do we have October 23rd is the due date for more responses, or?
I believe so. I don't have the brief right in front of me, Rob, or the order right in front of me, but that does sound.
So yeah, I looked through it, and she was very specific about the kinds of things we could respond to. But I guess my question is in terms of process, how do we as a board review prior to that due date? I think we're meeting a few days before, which strikes me as kind of late. But if we're putting together another response for this, how do we take a look at what, say, Brian or you are recommending or putting together for this response? Do we have a special meeting maybe, or an executive session or something like that?
Wait, before you answer that, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the sequence was that Eversource was to reply first, then the town was going to reply, and then Eversource would have a second opportunity to reply. I thought that was the sequence. So I'm not sure if we're due on the 23rd.
Okay.
But we'd have to check the information from the EFSB, but that's what I remember as I read it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. But I think that's something that, well, first, if you want to meet as a board, I would definitely suggest you do this in executive session. Because there is a strategy associated with this. And while I understand exactly the fact that hearing officer Sharkey has limited what can be asked and what can be submitted, I think you could take a liberal or very conservative interpretation of what that means.
Okay. So I guess I would ask, Madam Chair, that we keep ready to meet, whether it's executive session, when Michael and Brian have, maybe fleshed out a little bit what the alternatives and the issues are. And assuming that, as Steve asked, if we really need to get something in by the 23rd or not. I think it said 3 weeks from the time this was issued, but pending confirmation of the schedule.
Yeah, I would say, certainly we need to be available. And I would say, Michael, find out what we can and should be doing in this process and then go from there.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have the exact dates.
No, that's fine. That's
And
fine.
again, that's what I recall reading, but I could be way off. So, we need to confirm.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact dates of October 23rd. I seem to recall it said 3 weeks after this date was when this
Yeah.
was.
I got that from 3 weeks from October 2nd. which is when they issued that.
Yes,
So-
so Eversource is supposed to file responses to that discovery by the 23rd. And then the town has the opportunity to issue discovery. within the
Okay,
limits
so it
of-
sounds like we might not be doing anything until Eversource has submitted and we've been able to see that.
Sounds like, yeah.
Right. It's
Okay.
1
Well,
week
just
after.
confirm that, yeah.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay, moving into board reports. Brandy, why don't you start first, please?
Okay, let me unmute myself. I just had a couple things. One, I wanted to let people know the Ashland Cultural Council has opened up their grant season for 2021. And I believe the date to submit applications is up through November 16th. You can submit it directly through the website www.mass-culture.org/Ashland. And or go on the Ashland Cultural Council site and they'll have more information as what they're looking for as well. Also wanted to let folks know that, in our last meeting, our sustainability coordinator, Frank Nakashian, had presented to us about the new composting program, the joint initiative with Holliston. And I wanted to let people know that if you go on to Black Earth Compost's website, you can go ahead and sign up. And there's the discounted Ashland rate for 6 months of $89.99. And then also through the grant that our town had received to be able to receive a free starter kit. So the process is super easy. We signed up as a family. We have our first pickup on Friday. So we're already excited. My son is already like dumping things into the compost. So, we'll see if that continues to be as exciting in the winter time as it is now. But it's a great program. There's a lot of excitement. I've been talking to a few people about it and heard great things about Black Earth. So I would encourage people to start thinking about that as an option as we're going into the rest of fall. So that's all I have. And the only other thing, we had talked a little bit about town meeting. I expect I'll have a fuller update on where we stand and what our options are at our next meeting. So
Perfect. Yeah, that'd be good. So we can start deciding and figuring out what we're going to do.
Yeah. Thank
and
you.
Promoting it. Thank you. Joe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brandy, for that update. Some of the things that I had on my list we've already discussed, so I won't continue with those discussions. But I would like to promote that on October 17th, 2020, the fire department will be having their annual family day. It used to be a walkthrough, now it'll be a drive-through. And that'll be on Cedar Street from the hours of 10 to 12. And they look forward to seeing everybody there. It's unfortunate that they can't get close and personal to you, but there will be handouts given to the folks and the kids that show up. And Chief Roby wanted me to express that now, and we'll continue promoting it throughout this week and next week. This coming Saturday, October 10th, from the hours of 11 to 1, we'll be having a public forum regarding the public safety building and along with the Mendez School project. And anybody that has time that would like to come, bring your mask, number one, to make sure that we stay socially apart and safe for one another. You have your questions or whatever, please bring them along. We will have some graphs out there and some design review photographs for everybody to take a look at. And if I don't have the answers, I'm sure that either Mike will be able to take your questions and get the answers for you sooner than later. It's time that we really need to get the public even more involved, and this is what we're trying to do that. I would like to make an announcement that the Affordable Housing Trust, we still have a vacancy, and I'll quickly paraphrase a letter that was drafted and approved by the the trust by Deb Griffin, who was a very valued trustee. And we're looking to broaden our representation on this committee from anybody in town. We're looking for all types of diverse groups from either race, age, gender, your housing needs, your experience. And we ask you to come to some of our meetings. We have Zoom meetings, and the link is posted on the town website at www.ashlandmass.com /438-meetings, agenda and minutes. And if you have any questions that you have on the trust or for the trust, our contact email is affordablehousingtrust, all one word, at ashlandmass.com. And we look forward to seeing you coming as an active participant and potential member down the road. And again, if you're interested, fill out a talent impact form, and those forms are on the town website, and provide those to Ms. Sue Roby, and she will be more than happy to forward those along to us as a whole. And that's about it. So I'd like to thank everybody. One last thing. I'd like to thank Pi at Lucky Farms. We had an unbelievable year this year for corn. It was a banner year, and Pi was very happy. He couldn't keep enough butter in stock in the store. Everybody was coming and buying corn. This is how it went: corn to the butter cooler, to the beer cooler, and then to the register. And that's what they were doing. So, and that's coming straight from Pi. Then he was very happy to accommodate us, and his business was a little bit better as a result of that. So each one helped one another. So I'd like to thank everybody that participated and enjoyed the corn, and hopefully we'll be doing it again next year. So that's it. So I'd just like to thank everybody for that.
Great.
And I'm all done, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Steve?
A few things. So this Saturday is the final farmers market of the season, and we had I think by the benchmarks that we're using in the era of COVID-19, a very, very good season. Obviously it was strictly a vendor-driven and shopping-driven market, and I think the vendors did very well this year. They were very happy because everybody that came was a shopper, and so it worked out well for everybody. I want to thank the COVID task force in town for all their work at the beginning of the season, helping us to set up and to create a socially distant mechanism for making this a healthy experience. I want to thank the DPW. They've been great with all their support over the season with barricades and no parking signs and everything that they've brought back and forth every week. They've been terrific. And the PD, the police department as well, and with the support of the auxiliary police, they've been active all year as well. And to go to your point earlier about masks and the auxiliary wearing masks, Rob, at the beginning of the season, we had some auxiliary police that were walking around the market and on Front Street without masks, and we communicated, and that was solved within a week. So everybody, and I agree. I think you've got to set examples. So in any event, a great season. Hopefully, we're going to be back to. I'm not hopeful, but hopefully we're going to be back to a more normal market next year. So,
Great.
Senior, I want to talk about the senior lunch program. And Jen, I think you have your hands into everything, so I think you're probably involved in this as well. But the senior lunch program that takes place every Monday, it's being funded by the Friends of the Council on Aging currently, and it supplements everybody that participates. I think they're paying $4. Cost of the lunch is $7. It comes from TJ's, and it's been very successful. Rob's mother-in-law drives by every week to pick up her lunch, and
tries to get food for me, but
I was going to say she gets 2 lunches.
It's a great program, and I think it's important because for many of our seniors, they are obviously the most vulnerable population and the most isolated population right now. So this is giving them an opportunity at least to get in the car and drive to the community center. The lunch is brought to them, dropped in the car, and it's a very quick drive-by process. And I think besides, Jen, acknowledging Jen and all of her work that she does at the community center, Joanne Duffy has been super supportive of this. And I want to acknowledge also Kim Kotab, who's recently left the employment of the town to move on to another job. But Kim was managing all of the activities for the community center, or at least for the senior component. And so, and I thought she did a great job. And, so I just wanted to extend best wishes to Kim at this point. So regarding the lunch program, the senior lunch program, I'd like to propose to the board that we, as a board, we host a lunch for the seniors, one lunch on Veterans Day. And I talked to Joanne about this earlier. It would be very much appreciated. It would be a free lunch hosted by the board. I'd be asking for $500 from our gift account to support this. And I think, again, it would go over in a big way to, support a program that's really getting used very well. So I throw that out, and
I'll
say we
make a
put
motion.
that, well, I'd say let's put it on the agenda. We can do it at our next meeting. Let's put it on our agenda. I think as we've been doing grants, that's have it on the agenda for discussion.
And that's fair enough. I just need to get kind of a thumbs up, more or less. And so I can let Joanne know that she can advertise it in her newsletter, which goes out before our next meeting. So
I would think most likely it will pass, Steve, but let's put it as an agenda item just to verify that.
fair enough. I'll let her know that then.
Okay.
And
All right?
Steve, just a question, would this involve us doing some work there, or?
No, this is strictly a funding by the board, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then I just, regarding the community center, I think, the program that Kelly runs is, a lot of people consider that building the senior center, but it really is much more than a senior center. It truly is a community center. And when you look at the program that's been established for this after-school program, I think you can recognize that building truly is a community center. And just wanted to acknowledge that. Next thing, flu shots. Just want to encourage everybody to get flu shots. Bonnie and I got our flu shots a week ago, Saturday at Keefe Tech, and they had a drive-by flu shot system that was really fantastic. And I'm assuming that this is the model that would be used if and when there's a COVID-19 vaccine available, that it would be structured in a similar way. But you drove into the Keefe complex, they had maybe four stations set up, cars would be directed, and you were in and out in a very short period of time. So, but again, the point is get your flu shots. Next thing is post office. Post office, I think we all saw a letter that was sent out from our federal legislative team, signed by both senators and our representative. So, hopefully we're making headway. I haven't had an exact update as yet in terms of where the construction is or the discovery process is going on, but at least, we kind of, I think we've got people behind us now, rather than just kind of floundering around in no man's land. So
I do have to laugh a little that we wrote the letter and then our state representatives and then our federal representatives jumped on board of that letter.
Well,
where were they in leading this process?
Well, somebody's got to be a squeaky wheel.
Oh, I know.
And so it's, at this point, I think the town has been more than patient. I think we did the right thing.
No, I agree. I just think it's funny how.
Yeah, that's the way it always is that way, Yolanda. You know that.
I know, it's just, and then I just love all the people like, oh, thank you for doing that. It's like, why didn't they do something 6 months ago or not, anyway.
We're all capable of taking credit after the fact. That's the way it works. So, last thing is really to thank all of our first responders, for all the work they do and situations that they're putting themselves in on a day-to-day basis. So just wanted to thank them. And then lastly, just think globally and shop locally.
There you go.
And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Rob?
Yeah, thank you. I just update from the Attorney General's office on that letter we sent. So I spoke to Rebecca Tepper. She's the head of communications and utilities. So she was a little taken aback. Apparently they've got a draft letter they had done, but she didn't think, for whatever reason, they hadn't sent it out to us. So I expect to hear from them. The news is not going to be, what she told me is their policy is not to comment. You recall we sent a letter asking the Attorney General, since she had was asking the DPU to intervene with the gas companies to support the climate plan that the state had, that we had asked we had said that our objection to the Eversource expansion of the gas pipeline was similar to her, and asked her to support us. So what Ms. Tepper said that their policy is not to get involved in specific siting decisions. So that's the discussion that I'm having with her about, really, is that necessary? Is that a policy or a law, or just their choice? So I am trying to lobby them a bit about that, and I would ask that other people out there who are concerned about this issue and like the fact that we sent a letter asking for support, contact the Attorney General's office and make your thoughts known on that. And I want to work with I got to call into Jack Lewis, and maybe I'll contact Senator Spilka's office to get their take on this, because I think she really should support us as we had asked. So just a quick update on that. So the news isn't, well, first of all, it wasn't great that they didn't respond. And second, I don't think they're going to respond that positively, but hopefully we can improve that. So I wanted to give you that update.
Okay.
I wanted to ask Michael, how serious is this lack of a stimulus package in terms of our own municipal budget and the plan for the coming year?
No, I think it's still up in the air, Rob, because it has a trickle down effect. So I know, well, at least what was put out in public from our state delegation and really state leaders, was that they were really hoping that a federal stimulus package would come and allow them, meaning our state officials, to do a lot more stuff. As far as I know, the commitment that they made in terms of Chapter 70 and local aid, I think that still holds regardless of what happened with the new federal stimulus package. But beyond that, if something doesn't go through, I'm not looking at, too much more assistance.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be bad news. So I'm of the opinion that we need to get something passed. We can't hold out for the perfect thing on either side. So hopefully something will happen on that. I did want to briefly mention, our ex-colleague Carl sent a letter concerned about Wildwood Cemetery, and I know that Joe sent a very detailed response. I just wanted to bring up a couple things. I think in terms of Carl's concerns, there's no, hopefully we're doing the best we can with that situation. I think you're all familiar with the softball field is at the end of the cemetery, and it's inherently a difficult situation, I think. And I think, as long as we're paying attention and putting up the signs and the fencing, there's, I don't think there's a perfect solution to that, but hopefully we can, continue to take common sense measures to protect the cemetery. But unfortunately, I think many of us were involved when the school was designed. it's very difficult to put those playing fields in any place but where they are now. So I think if we just kind of stay on it, and people hopefully will act with good intention. I did want to just remind folks or bring it up that the Upper Charles Trail is, of course, in that area, trying to go from the high school to behind the public safety building and then along the side of the cemetery and out. So I wanted to just kind of remind people of that possibility, and hopefully we'll be able to design it with properly so that, you know, it can fit in with the use with Wildwood as a cemetery. So, and again, you know, I just wanted to, you know, bring up Carl, we're paying attention, and I think people are trying to do the right thing, and hopefully, you know, we'll follow up in areas where we're missing something. So I just did want to bring that up. And I was going to say, oh, I just had a question about the Riverwalk, Michael, and I know you've probably briefed us on this, but I finally got out there. I was able to walk, and I finally got out there last weekend. It was great. But do we have plans to get the Riverwalk through to the VFW so people can cross to go to the train station? How is that looking?
We're working on that, Rob. I mean, if you recall, there was a short span bridge that was supposed to go across there, but because it took so long between when 25% designs were done and when we actually picked the ball up to move it forward, the flood maps had changed, and so that became impractical. So Jen and actually Green and BSC, a number of engineers have looked at a couple of different options, but that is the goal. That is still the goal.
Good, yeah. And it's you know, it's not an easy thing to do. So and the walk that's there is great and very lovely. So I'm glad I finally got to get out there and see it. There was a lot of people out there too, and they're all trying to figure out how to get to the other side. So anyway, all right, that's it for me. Thank you.
I think, Rob, the idea was that even if there was a bridge, it wasn't going to be right there at the end of the trail. It was going to be, as you said, further down by the VFW.
Yes.
And a trail would have to be continued along Ponderosa to get there. Right? The trail would not cross, because right there by the where the trail ends by the kennel is not the VFW yet.
Right.
Right.
But
okay.
we're somehow getting to the VFW, right? By
Right,
crossing the river at Marathon Park.
Right.
Yeah. However we can do that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Real quick, Mendez Building Project is moving forward through the MSBA process. We've gotten response back to the schematic design. And now there's a few things that we're still working on, but the next thing is bringing it forward to the public for a vote. And then things will continue from there. There's an event going on this weekend. It actually started today called Color Up Ashland. It's a partnership between the town of Ashland and Blush Boutique, the florist in downtown Ashland. The request is that you go and buy some balloons and hang them on your mailbox through to Monday, just to celebrate and get some color here in Ashland. And that is all I have. I know we've all been working a lot. Thank you to Sue and Jen and Michael and the rest of the staff at Town Hall for all that they do, as well as to our first responders. I know they've been very busy with different things, especially when we have crazy weather like we've been having. The stop sign at Elliott and Fruit is working, I think. People are starting to get used to it if you drive through there. And I believe that is it. Our next meeting is Wednesday, October 21st. And I think that's it. If nobody has anything else, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And a second?
Go ahead, Brandy.
I'll second it.
It's too early. It's only 8:30.
Hey, shh.
There's a debate on tonight.
I thought we were going to be done at 8:30, and then everyone had all kinds of board reports. Anyway,
Yeah.
Let's go out on a roll call vote. Kinsman,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shear,
Aye.
And Greaves, aye. Thank you all very much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Stay
Yeah.
safe.
Bye.
Thank
You do the
And,
same.
we'll
Jen,
see
thank
ya.
you for this afternoon.